Hey guys, welcome back to the Bond Report. My name is Chris, aka the Beard of Blofeld. So today I've got a guest who really doesn't need much of an introduction. I mean, if you've been in the Bond fandom or the community for very long, this guy's probably part of why you're in the fandom. He's been around for well over 18 years, I believe. Welcome, being James Bond podcast host, none other than Joseph Darlington. Hey Joe, how you doing, man?
Good, Chris. How are you doing? Thank you for the kind intro.
Yes, absolutely. I'm doing good, man. So, yeah, you've been in this, I mean, in this, living it,
It
breathing it for going on 18 years. Is that correct?
is, yeah. It'll be, I actually, now that you mentioned it, I think it's 19 years old. I think a year, right about a year from now, it'll be 20 years of me doing this. It was 2006, November
Yeah.
2006. Yeah.
And you're on episode, is it 282? Is that correct?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't even keep track anymore. Uh, crazy,
Pleasure, and I
crazy
get it.
stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I know you obviously you wrote the book, being James Bond Volume One. Now, just recently, you relaunched it with the second edition, uh, and that's something that I was lucky to kind of experience with you in London when we were at
Yeah.
Morpeth Arms for Gather All London. Great
Yeah.
time there.
Yeah.
But for anybody who maybe hasn't heard about it, let them know what that book is real quick. And we're going to talk about some other things today, guys. So stick around to the end. But I wanted to talk about Joe for just a second because he's been doing some really amazing stuff for the community.
Well, again, thank you for that, and thank you for letting me pontificate tiny little bit. Yeah, again, just a young fan like everybody else. Again, I'm going back 20 years. It just boggles my mind. And I was always fascinated with James Bond as a hero, as a film hero, an action hero. And specifically, he was always somebody who was just incredibly competent. No matter what you put in front of him, he could do it. You couldn't trip him up. You challenge him to a game, to a sport, at the gambling table, whatever. He's got it. Wherever he went in the world, he knows the best restaurants to go to. So, all that great stuff. So that was sort of the thing that always sort of fascinated me, and that was kind of the direction I wanted to go as I sort of tried to become part of the larger conversation. So started a podcast, started writing books, being James Bond, just how to do all these great things that Bond knows how to do. And yeah, and it's just been a hell of a ride from there. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I mean you've gone skydiving, bungee jumping. You've recreated a lot of the action moments that we've all seen, right?
Yeah, honestly, some have been pretty crazy, some have been, not so crazy, but yeah, tackled a lot of the things that Bond has done, and it's been absolutely incredible. It's just been, I got, we only go around once, let's have fun with it. Let's do some of these fun things instead of just watching James Bond do it and sort of kind of wishing, we could do some of that stuff. Just do it, just get out there and do it. So yeah, I've been to a couple of the places he's been, had some of the fun he's had. So yeah, it's been good stuff.
Well, I'm very happy for you, man. And
Thanks,
I
brother.
think, yeah, because I get it. When I joined this community, it pulled me out of my comfort zone as well,
Mm,
and got me doing things that I never thought I would do. And
yeah.
so I completely get it. And but I did want to take the time just to just say thank you because you have given a lot to the community, man. So
Thank you, brother. Honestly, thank you so much.
yeah,
And good for you too, brother. Because honestly, it's like once you get the bite, it's hard to not follow that, right?
right. All right. So let's get into what we're here to talk about today. And I think there's a lot of opportunity around this topic. And we're going to cover several different areas because I really feel like we're in a good time for this to actually come to fruition.
Mm,
So, what are we talking about? Well, guys, an animated James Bond series. Now, I know when immediately, I think, Joe, you probably agree with this. When we think about animated James Bond, we immediately go right to James Bond Jr. That is not the direction I'm going today whatsoever. If anything, it's a full like 180 opposite of that. And this has been on my mind for years. I've seen some of the comics, I've collected some of the comic books, of course, read some of those, and you get that stylized art. You get the brutal sense of what Fleming was trying to convey. And actually, recently, what really struck me on this to pull this conversation together was I recently saw a special on the G.I. Joe downfall, the old cartoon from the 80s. Now, are you
Mm.
Gen X?
Yeah, very much so. Yep.
Okay, me too. Perfect. So, all the Gen Xers out there, you'll appreciate this. So, I found out why G.I. Joe came to an end. I didn't realize it, but it was actually Transformers. When they had when the Transformers film came out, and spoilers if you haven't seen that movie, sorry, but when they killed Optimus Prime, kids went into such a downward spiral of emotions, and parents were in such an uproar. They're like, "You just killed our son's biggest hero," because Hasbro had plans to kill off Duke in the G.I. Joe franchise,
Interesting.
and they pivoted. And that's where Cobra Law came in, and Globulus, whatever, and that whole like weird thing where Cobra Commander turned back into a snake. And so I'm watching this series, and I'm going, okay, this is why the toy line fell apart. This is why the series failed. And I'm going, but that's because they basically got too big for the britches, and they decided to do something bold, and rather than just lean into it and kill Duke off, they did this whole pivot thing and change. But I feel like it would have been just a cleaner exit, like with Transformers. And that's kind of what I'm looking at here. Is I'm looking for something that has that longevity, that emotional impact. And I feel like we're in a really good position right now for like an anime, almost James Bond adventure. And trust me, I'm not talking about like Pokemon or Teen Titans or anything.
Bless your heart.
But you tell me, is there a cartoon franchise that you connected with or that had like a lasting impression on you?
Mm. There were definitely some animated shows that I was really drawn to, and I was actually drawn to some kind of odd ones. Uh, one for some reason, the first one that pops in my head, don't ask me why this one grabbed me early on, but I was a big Thundercats guy.
Oh,
Yeah, honestly, and again, I kind of felt like, well, it was kind of generic, but honestly, I remember watching that there was an actual first episode. It was like kind of a pilot, and it was pretty high quality, frankly. I don't remember how long it was, but it was sort of like the origin of where they came from the other planet to here. And I just remember feeling like it was really well done. And honestly, I remember watching the intro every week it was that intro,
mm-hmm.
thunder cats, and I
Yep.
remember thinking like that was such a well done. I remember I used to watch that in like in slow motion just to watch the little frames of the animation cells to sort of pick up on how they do the movement, how the movement is done so well, and it was really slick. So yeah, that was one. But again, again, I was a little bit of GI Joe. There's a couple others that I really liked, and I totally agree with you that I feel like I remember watching a lot of cartoons back in those days and feeling maybe a little bit more that they could be doing so much more. You could always tell, that like some of the animation was really good, but some of it was a little lazy. I can remember even seeing, and this is sort of funny. I remember seeing when Beauty and the Beast, the Disney cartoon, came out in the theaters. I remember seeing that in the theater. I don't remember who it was I was with that wanted to see that so bad. But I remember seeing that in the theater and really just kind of the first opening frames when it's like she's walking through it's nighttime and she's walking in the rain up to this castle. And I remember thinking like, boy, the animation for this is pretty wild. It was really, really good. I mean, again, you're talking Disney back in those days. I mean, they can't not do animation well. but I remember thinking like if you took this and you kind of brought a little more of the anime style into this, I said, I said to myself, I would love to see like a real proper X-Men cartoon done really well like that. You know what I mean? Like that was sort of where my head was back then. I was actually big on X-Men back then too.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, I was a big animation guy back then too. So I understand potential. I that's sort of where my head goes. There's a lot of potential for it.
Well, and I think it's the impression that it leaves on you. Like X-Men, for example, we use that. That had a
Yeah.
huge impression on me because the story was there, but like you even said, some of the animation was lazy.
Mm,
They for some of the shading, it's like they got a little crazy with the black sometimes. It was a little
yeah,
too
yeah,
much shading effects. And so, but for better or for worse, the story was there. And the story was
yeah,
incredible.
yeah,
And
yeah,
they even revised it recently, X-Men 97. I don't know if you caught that or not.
yeah, yeah,
You get to a
yeah,
certain
yeah.
episode and you're just like, I'm not crying, you're crying. I don't know what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
So I mean, it really is the story. So let's talk about that. When it comes to these, new animated series, we've got things right now available to us like Splinter Cell Death Watch on Netflix.
mm,
Incredibly dark, very adult oriented. Um,
hmm.
we go classic. You've got Batman the animated series with Warner Brothers. And I
Yeah,
mean, that was a heavy, heavy hitter back in the day.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, that carried over a lot of weight. And in some ways, there are some fans out there that still today say that is the best iteration of Batman.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I mean, and then you had things like the Clone Wars with Star Wars,
Hmm.
completely different direction, but that animated series was incredible.
Yes. And by the way, I much preferred the actual animated Clone Wars before they did the CGI animated one.
Yes.
That was good. That was a really, and I again love the
Yep.
artwork for that. The stories were great. The
Yep.
tone was really wonderful. Yeah, no, that was an incredible series. And by the way, too, you also mentioned, when you talk about Batman, honestly, it was ironically in the last, I guess I'm talking about the last decade or so, I was not a big fan of much of the DC universe films, but the DC animated y- films are really good. If
They
you
are.
have seen any of those, I mean, there are some great, great animated films that they've done that are
Yeah.
absolutely incredible.
Now, back in the day, you would have these seasons, these episodic journeys when it come to animation, and I mean they would be cranking out 36, 54, sometimes 60 episodes per season.
Yeah.
Now that we're kind of in more of a streaming era, unfortunately that's been shaved down quite a bit. I think
Mm,
the average streaming platform, once it has landed, now not necessarily like a pilot season or whatever, but once it's landed, they're getting like 13 to 26 episodes per season. However, just to get it off the ground and running, they're limiting things to like 8 and 10 episodes. So to put the money into these episodes, they're very leery
mm,
because it is there is so much out there, and obviously we can all only consume so much. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
at the end of the, and
yeah,
they know that.
yeah.
They
True,
know it's
true.
saturated.
Yeah.
So
I
good.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. But I think they would be smart to really kind of, 'cause again, animation's a different animal. You're really opening things up to a different audience, I think. And honestly, the things they can do now, I'll tell you too. And again, you might laugh at this one, but my, I got little grandbabies running around, so we have Bluey on all the time. And I tell you, honestly, I watch that with them and it's a great show. Like, I mean, it's a really well done show. And honestly, it's funny. I was really there was a part of me that was kind of mourning the loss of real hand drawn animation. Like once the computer animation kicked in, kind of took over the whole animation industry, it was like, well, but I feel like they've gotten now to the point where they can do so much now. They can do things that look very much hand drawn if you want to go that style. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's another show that they watch called Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, which again another one that I love because it's sort of a takeoff on Mister Rogers, and it almost looks like it's done with like cutout paper, and you know that everything they're doing now, it's all somebody sitting at a Mac lap computer someplace doing it. But
Yeah.
honestly, it looks so great that I feel like we're at a time where the potential is almost limitless.
It is.
Mhm.
And that kind of leads me into my next question is if they were to lean into this, okay, if Amazon was to pull the trigger on something like this, should they do standalone, self-contained, like 40-minute episodes?
Mm.
Or should it be a story arc where we're getting that overarching? Because if we're only going to get 8 to 10, and even on the high end, let's say 13 to 26 episodes, is it a full story arc? Or do you get those like standalones where it's self-contained within itself for 40 minutes?
Yeah.
What would you prefer?
I think I would probably very much prefer something with a story arc. It doesn't have to be crazy. I don't know if you could do a standalone episode, meaning like I mean if the episode was about an hour long, let's say, that would be hard to introduce a villain, introduce a plot, and then sort of tie everything up by the end. I mean, granted, we do it in most films in 2 hours, but I think to try to do it like 8 times with 8 different villains and 8 different stories to fill out a season, I think that'd be tough. Not impossible, but tough. I wouldn't mind seeing something like let's say again, I know I'm kind of wishful thinking here. Let's say they took one of the original novels and maybe set it in the time frame, and maybe they spent 8 episodes doing that novel from cover to cover, something like that.
Ooh,
You know what
now
I'm
you're
saying?
talking. Now you're
I
talking.
think I think that's kind of how you do it. I think you introduce a villain for about 8 episodes. You some storyline, bring in a Bond girl who's going to be there for the whole thing, etc. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Maybe the whole season is like season two, Live and Let Die, season two,
Yeah.
Moonraker, that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
I love
S-
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually, I didn't even think of that perspective, but that would clean up things, and it would allow the studio to go back on some of the stories that weren't really told properly.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, brother,
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. This is
Yeah.
this is fantastic. So obviously there's clear opportunity here for them to capitalize on the animation element. Now, you know, I guess that kind of leads me into my next thing here is like, why is this the perfect time? Well, Netflix has gone on record recently to say that their animation studio is their secret weapon. It's what is feeding other projects because the animation communities are so strong and they back the program so well and the merch and everything that it is helping to feed other things. I mean, I'm sure you remember BoJack Horseman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, hilarious.
Yeah.
And that's still
Sure.
running.
Yeah.
They've
Yeah.
got Love and Death of Robots, which has been a big fan favorite. Arcane is doing really well. And then my personal favorite is Castlevania because I'm a huge Castlevania guy.
Nice.
So, but I mean, that's what Netflix has been doing. Just recently, July 2025, Amazon officially launched Amazon MGM Animation Studio, headed up by Julie Young and Morelli Soria. So this
Mm.
is something that they've kind of had in the thoughts. And I wonder if these were the conversations of content that Barbara Broccoli was
Mm.
putting her foot down on.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. You know what? Honestly, I've been sort of making the pitch for a while now that it was interesting when Amazon purchased James Bond, and for quite a while it was like, well, we have the property, what are we going to do with it? And we got a couple documentaries, we got a reality TV show, Now, finally, they're going to get into doing a film. But yeah, to your point, there's still a lot that they can mine from this. So yeah, if they can do an animated series, and again, you're also bringing in the other thing. I agree with you. I feel like, you know, James Bond has become a legendary piece of cinema, so much so that I feel that the original novels sometimes get sort of shuffled into the, we kind of forget that they're as important as they are. Most literary heroes, Sherlock Holmes, their works go on and on and on, and they get told and retold all kinds of different ways. I think it would be a pretty fantastic thing to kind of use this medium to go back and maybe revisit. Because again, I don't I think they also, if I'm sitting in the planning rooms at Amazon, I'm probably saying, do we really want TV shows about the books while we're trying to put out blockbuster films? Aren't they going to sort of compete with one another? But if you did it as an animation, that's kind of that's a horse of a different color, you know?
It is. And think about it this way too. We don't even have to just touch on the Fleming novels. What about, I don't know, Anthony Horowitz's run,
Yeah,
Raymond
yeah.
Benson's
Yep,
stories?
yep, yep.
I mean, even Kim Sherwood's got some opportunity here. And I feel like, honestly, I feel like Kim Sherwood is, I think she's a strong candidate to attract a newer, younger audience. I think there's opportunity
Mm,
there. But this all goes kind of hand in hand, because if Amazon is merging with MGM and doing this animation studio, obviously they've been in talks with other companies and seeing where the numbers are coming from to make this make sense. You've got studios out there like Polygon Pictures, Digital Frontier, Sunrise Studios, even Ubisoft Films and Television now, which was
mm,
doing video games for the longest time. They rebranded as Film and Television so
yeah,
that their anime division has it's more of a cohesive kind of business model. And I
yeah,
feel that this is where opportunity is just dangling, just wait, just pull the trigger.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
so
yeah.
much there.
I totally agree with you. Probably about a year or so ago, I remember doing a podcast where I basically said, if I were Raymond Benson, I would get on the phone and find somebody who knows somebody over at Amazon, because honestly, they are scrambling for content.
Yeah.
So why the hell not? I mean, honestly, at this point, I mean, I think if I'm Raymond Benson, I'm saying to myself, I think that ship sailed a long time ago. But again, we are in the era of just generating content,
Yeah.
So why not grab some of these people who did some really amazing work and tap those? That's the thing. I mean, honestly, again, between the different mediums, the different stories, the different authors, there's plenty to mine. So Amazon should really have no problem, if you think about it, to come up with a few things that are a little off the beaten path.
Right. Well, and you said something a minute ago. You said about like, well, wouldn't this be competing? And I mean, you could argue that about even the video game, and that kind of brings me to my next point with
Yeah,
First Light, the video game. How are they going to reinvent Bond? Well, they've shown us now,
yeah,
and we've got Patrick Gibson coming in and doing the mocap and the voice acting for this
mhm,
amazing. It looks like it's going to be a pretty stellar video game.
yeah.
It's going to make me buy a PlayStation 5.
Same here. Yeah,
I told myself I wasn't going to get into video games anymore, but
It's- I'm with you,
uh,
brother.
yeah, okay.
It's
Well,
been a
there we
long time
go.
for me, but I'm gonna have to break down and do it.
Yeah, we'll do a side by side
There
video
you go.
thing. But I mean, you've got that's to me, that's how you reinvent it is you take the video game
Mm,
and you take the whole cast and you bring them over to the animation.
mm,
Problem solved.
okay.
They're
Yeah,
already the
yeah,
voices for the video game. Just carry over the voice acting from the video game, and now you've got a whole animation thing. And if you think about it, Star Wars did this where they tested with the movie, the Clone Wars, the animated movie. It was the CG
yeah.
one. It
Right,
wasn't the
right, right.
cartoon. It wasn't the really awesome one where Mace Windu was
Yeah,
a pure badass. If you haven't
yeah,
seen
yeah.
that show, God, go watch that.
Yes,
So
yes.
good. But
Yeah.
they did that test movie and they dropped that movie to see how people would react. And based on its success, they created the series. If you look at the video game this way, it'll flow right into it.
Yeah. And you also have saved yourself some of the development steps because
Right.
you already have the actors, you have the visual style, you have the look of the film already. You probably have somebody who contributed music to cutscenes or whatever else. So I mean, a lot of those decisions have already been made. So you just have to grab it, amp up some of the animations and run with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it checks a lot of boxes. That's
Yeah.
that's the
Big
way
time.
I started thinking about this, and I was just like, well, how would they, if I was running the studio, like, what would be the direction I would want to go to save money and but make this worth it to risk it because it
Yeah. Yeah.
hasn't been done yet. And I'm thinking like, well, that's an easy one right there. They're already they're already involved with the video game. Why not just tap into that? So yeah, I guess kind of a follow-up question here for you is if they didn't lean into that direction, who could you see them voicing Bond?
Boy, that's a great question. Honestly, I would probably say the sky is the limit. And the thing I keep going to is they've done so many great versions. Like, for example, when they did every once in a while, they'll go back and do audiobook versions of the original books.
Yes.
And some of the people that they've gotten to just to narrate the stories have been pretty interesting. And I thought Toby Stevens was one that
Yes.
you might not have even thought of him as being. I mean, you'd almost think that he was sort of the antithesis of what you might want as somebody to play Bond on radio or however you want to say it. But he did great. I mean, he was kind of spot on. So, yeah, there's actually probably a pretty good size. You can mine a lot of talent from a lot of places, and probably some that have a little Bond experience already.
Dutch Bond fan was recently talking, and he did a review of the audiobook. I think it was The Spy Who Loved Me. I think
Mm,
I could be misquoting. I'm sorry if I got it wrong. But he said that apparently there's a really rare version of the audiobook that Rosamund Pike reads.
interesting.
And he said that it made all the difference in the world. He said it was so
Really?
good. And so here we have another tie-in with,
Hmm.
obviously her playing Miranda Frost in Die Another Day, coming in and reading from a totally different perspective,
Yeah.
selling it. So I got to get a
Yeah.
copy of that because I really want to listen to that as well.
I now that you mentioned it, I do too, and I'm wondering like I actually had many of the books stored like on a disc someplace. I gotta go back and see if that's maybe that I might have that version, but I hope so. Now that you got me thinking about it.
So let's move on here. Let's talk about tone of what
Mm,
you know James Bond, the animated series or the animated files or whatever. What would the tone be? Because I'm sitting here thinking like, obviously Amazon is steering the ship now. They're gonna want something, and again, not James Bond Jr. They're gonna
mm,
want something very different that's gonna stand out to make this IP successful. They've dumped a lot of money into Road to a Million already to try and make
yeah.
that stand out. So I could see them doing something similar here, but the big one I feel like that they would have to tackle with tone, and maybe you can agree with me on this, is they haven't, the films have really struggled to have a good balance of style, action, humor, and heart. Having all of those things in a film has not really happened personally for me since GoldenEye. Casino Royale was very,
Mm.
very, very, very close. But I mean, talk to me. What are you thinking about tone here and having that balance for something
Mm.
that would be an animation?
You make a great point that you do need to get those percentages to work pretty well. You need to get those elements and you need to get them at the right balance. Um, Animation, there's a couple inherent qualities, and there's a couple things that animation can take great advantage of. You can have fantastic action. You can have, because you're talking about movement style, again, I flash back to Thundercats. I mean, there was stylistically, there was so much you could do with movement. Obviously, you can you're not limited by a budget. You can go to anywhere on the planet. You can go to outer space. You could do anything you please. You know, the world is your oyster when you're doing animation. So I think that if anything, I might be encouraged to see if, like, again, if I'm in the writer's room, I would say just be careful you don't go too crazy. You know, again, take advantage of what you can do,
Right.
but don't make that a carte blanche. You know, now we can send Bond to somebody. Literally put a book in my hand recently, a Bond friend of mine. It was one of the you know, Canada can write their own James Bond books now, and
Oh,
apparently, yeah, because the IP expired. Basically, they're
yeah.
allowed to do that. And he handed me one. He says, "This is one of the ones that Canada did." And apparently, James Bond is literally fighting a space alien in it. And the cover literally has a picture of Bond fighting like this octopus looking thing. And I was like, "That's what I mean. Like that. Just because you can do anything doesn't mean you should." So,
Right.
um,
Right.
so again, I think
Thank you,
that,
Jeff Goldblum.
yeah, the tone can be a lot of fun. I would definitely put the emphasis on good writing and good stories, and take advantage of the freedoms that animation brings. So you can keep an element of fun, you know, but I wouldn't get too carried away with that.
Well, and I feel like a good balance between like Connery's charisma and
Mhm.
Craig's like intensity and realism. I
Yeah,
feel like that would play well. And then obviously, and that's the great thing about animation too, is you can literally just pick and choose. Like, oh, I want this piece from Roger, and I want that piece from Timmy, and I want this piece from
yeah,
Kate,
yeah,
and you can create the ultimate
yeah,
Bond in a sense. And I think that's, and I'm going to go back to this. That's why the Batman animated series is so great, because they were able to do the exact same thing. They're like, well, I'm going
yeah.
to take this from, Michael Keaton, and this from George Clooney, and this,
Yes, yes,
and
yeah,
they picked and
yeah,
choose when the tone was perfect and how that should have played out. That's where you're going to get that balance. I feel like, I
yeah.
really do hope this does go with a darker tone overall. I hope we get
Yes.
some grit to it. I don't want any like bubblegum, like ew,
Rar oo woo.
stupid moments.
Right, right, right. Yes. Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I think that honestly, like as I'm visualizing it in my head, I'm picturing a lot of nighttime, a lot of cityscapes, and then but then I am catching myself saying, "Come on!" But you have the you can get so creative with color and all that sort of stuff. So I don't want it. Right, it doesn't have to be dour by any stretch, but yeah, I also do see. I would like to see some great little toughness. You know, it's funny. You're giving me like a flashback too. Do you remember in the late '80s there was a Rambo cartoon, and you know I was a big Rambo fan. I remember like when they did a cartoon, I was like, oh, that guy, that's interesting. And I remember thinking like, how are they going to do? I mean, Rambo is an R-rated movie. It's known for
Mhm.
being violent. How are you going to kind of dial that down for a cartoon? And of course, some of the things that he did in the cartoon were like, yeah, all right, fine. You know, it was like, again, it was that kind of thing. Like, well, what can we have Rambo do in a cartoon? I mean, he's fighting General Meanhawk or something or other. You know, like so. Yeah, I mean, I do worry that maybe they would tone down Bond a little too much to be a little family friendly, because somebody in the room is going to say, "Hey, this is a cartoon; it should be family friendly." Not necessarily. You could again, we can do pretty adult stuff these days. You know,
Yeah.
when it comes to animation.
That was a big thing with GI Joe back in the day, because it was children's programming, and Reagan lifted a law that said, well, you can't advertise to kids with violence. And Reagan was like, getting rid of that. And that's where
Right,
GI
right, right,
Joe
right, right.
blossomed from.
Yeah,
They were like, great, the real American hero, let's do it.
yeah,
But all the guns
yeah.
were lasers.
Right.
That's how they got around
Every
it.
time you shot a plane out of the sky, the parachute always came down with a guy in it.
Yep. And
Yeah.
exactly. And you had to see him like jump out of the plane and the parachute go off, and then plane would
Yes.
crash in the background.
Yeah, yeah.
That had to be the forefront that he was still safe, he was still alive.
Right.
So that is where it's going to get a little hokey, I feel like with an animated 007 adventure, there'll be some gunplay, maybe. I hope they don't do kind of what the Apple video game did, Cypher 007, where it's the
Yeah.
stun thing. I think,
The literal Z's coming out, just like, look, he's
yeah,
sleeping.
he's asleep and he fades away. Like, oh wait,
Yeah. Honestly,
I don't remember
yeah.
fading away after I fell asleep.
Right. Seriously, yeah. I mean, but again, I think you're making a good point. Is I think what we're talking about is that the fear that again someone involved in the process is going to get a little too GI Joey on us and say like, these are for kids, it's animation, so you can't do certain things. But you're right. I also think that you said that it can't outshine the films. I think that they would probably have to almost I feel like somebody in the process would probably be saying something along the lines of like we can do a lot of great stuff here, but let's not outshine the films. We can't be more popular than the films. If we do, then somebody's going to start, somebody's going to come running down the hallway and say, "Hey, wait a second, you guys can't show us up over here." So, yeah, it is going to be very interesting to try to capture the perfect tone
Mhm.
in many ways. You know what I mean? Not just storylines and things like that, but just like where it sits in the world of James Bond. It should be a wonderful product on its own. But again, yeah, if they start to outshine the big boys, somebody might get upset.
Hey, I'm the way I look at it. The way I look at it is competition um, drives. What's the
Innovation,
word?
yeah, it's
Thank you. Yes,
creativity. Yeah,
yes. You
honestly,
knew what I was saying.
it would be a wonderful problem to have if we have too many
Yes.
really, really good Bond products. You know what I mean?
Oh darn! Like,
Yeah, you're right.
like come on! Like, I would rather
Oh, it's
have that
too good?
problem.
Okay, fine.
Right? Like,
Yeah,
well, then step up your game, Amazon movie studio. Like, that's the way kind of I look
exactly.
at it. Is
Yeah.
if you're getting outdone, outwritten, out directed by an animation studio, you may want to start looking at who's running certain departments. And
Exactly. Yeah.
if it was to happen, what would it look like? And would you watch it?
Yeah.
So that's my final question, not only to you at home, but to you, Joe. I mean, obviously, if this was to come out, would it be something that you would have that like optimistic excitement about?
Yeah, 1000%. I mean, I think that first off, the obvious answer would be I would watch at least the first episode almost like it was homework. Like I would feel like, well, I have to check this out to see what they're doing and see if it's any good. I would probably have my fingers crossed. Please be good. Please be good.
Right.
And yeah, assuming that the first one kind of caught me, I would thank you, and I would eat the rest of it up. I would love it. I mean, I'm hopefully they hit all the marks correctly, like you're saying. So yeah, I would. This would be yeah. Honestly, the concept of this would be something I would very much look forward to, and really be excited about.
Me too. Well, guys, thanks so much for watching today. If you've enjoyed the content, please give a thumbs up. That helps the channel so much. You have no idea how much a thumbs up helps. If you've enjoyed as well, consider subscribing. Of course, I'm going to be here. I put out James Bond content pretty much every couple weeks. I'm trying to get back to every week at this point. Joe, I'm going to leave links to all of his stuff down below in the description so you can find a link on where to purchase his book and, of course, his website to follow up and subscribe to his podcast. Joe, thank you again so much, my friend, for being here.
Anytime, Chris. This was a lot of fun. We'll do it again, hopefully.
Absolutely, man. All right, guys. As always, here's 007.